what ends up happening for a lot of our clients is the other side is saying, you didn't mitigate your losses. You didn't go out and try to rent a truck and things like that. So it's so important to keep a written diary, some kind of, I don't care what it's on, just as long as it's in writing on your computer, on your phone, of everything that you do to get back up and going.
Well, first of all, what do we mean by the term downtime compensation? For folks that maybe aren't aware, can you explain what that is?
Absolutely. Downtime is that time a truck or a trailer or other heavy equipment is down after an accident. Can't make any money while it's down, but all of those expenses continue. So it's a serious situation for so many owner operators and small fleets when their primary equipment is out of business.
So let's talk about the getting the compensation, because of course, I think a lot of folks have never even considered that they could. What are the circumstances when a trucker might be able to receive downtime compensation?
Sure. So the typical scenario is let's say our client's name is Tom, and Tom owns a truck, and he pulls a trailer for someone else. Anyway, he's going down the road. He's minding his own business. He's in his lane. He's doing everything very safely, and somebody comes along and hits him. Let's say that's a four-wheeler. That car is insured by State Farm. State Farm and of course, after the accident, police say, yep, State Farm or the driver was at fault, and all is fine as far as the truck driver. So State Farm will understand how to fix the truck. They understand then when they get invoices for repairs, they pay that. But State Farm does not necessarily understand how to pay the downtime losses, those what they call loss of use, lost profits, business interruption. So those are terms that that aren't thrown around a whole lot, except when somebody is in that situation. And a lot of people don't even know what it's called or that they have rights to it. The cool thing is that these losses are, according to state statutes, are almost across the whole United States. There's a couple of states that don't really allow for much payment on this, but primarily across the United States, truck drivers who have been hit in an accident have a right to go after the other side for their lost income.
I'm curious, because I always hear about the insurance limits. And I mean, anybody that's looked over their policy has seen that you only have so much for this, so much for that, that the insurance company is committing to paying. Does that create a problem with getting downtime compensation out of a car policy?
It really does. It really does. So let's say that in that scenario with that four-wheel, it was let's say that driver only had $5,000 of coverage. Oh, well, you knock out a light, there's 5,000. So oftentimes there's not nearly enough money to pay for the towing, the repairs, the hotel that might have been involved, the rental car, a rental truck, and then of course any other downtime losses, lost income. So it's a big deal. And with so many drivers out there, so many four-wheelers out there with little to no insurance, it's really important for your listeners to consider protecting themselves. And what does that mean? That can mean a couple different things. Of course, you can purchase downtime coverage, but oftentimes those types of policies across the board, all kinds of insurance companies, there's not a ton of coverage out there. It might be $2,000 or $5,000 of coverage, and a lot of our clients have $25,000 to $50,000 in loss if they're down for 2-3 months, that type of thing. So I believe an important additional coverage to add on is something called UMPD. and UIMPD. So UMPD is uninsured motorist property damage coverage. That's when the other side has no coverage. Equally important is the UIMPD, which is underinsured motorist property damage coverage. So if that driver only had $5,000 in coverage, but you had $50,000 in downtime losses, presumably you'd be able to go after, file a claim with your own insurance company for that $45,000 in difference.
Okay. Well, let's get back to pursuing this with the insurance company of the vehicle that hit you.
Yeah.
What are the steps that a trucker has to go through in order to pursue getting some kind of downtime compensation?
Sure, sure. Well, a lot of folks will focus on the losses right up front, and that can be premature. Step number one is focusing on liability. You, as the victim, must prove that the other side was at fault. If you can't prove they were at fault, you might have $1 million in losses, but you're not going to get the first dollar. So two steps to every case. Step number one, proving liability is on the other guy's shoulders and getting him and his insurance company to admit that in writing. And then secondly, then starting to focus on the downtime. I know a lot of our clients might, when they give us documents, they might be focusing on the accident itself. Here's what happened. And if the other side has admitted responsibility, we just move past that. I don't care how dumb they were, the other side at the accident scene or whatever. We're now going to focus on the timeline of what's happened from the date of the accident until that truck is moving again. And what ends up happening for a lot of our clients is the other side is saying, you didn't mitigate your losses. You didn't go out and try to rent a truck and things like that. So it's so important to keep a written diary, some kind of, I don't care what it's on, just as long as it's in writing on your computer, on your phone, of everything that you do to get back up and going. Because I love our clients. Our clients are salt of the earth, small business owners. They are not going and sitting on their couch eating bonbons while waiting for the world to, fix their truck and all this. They're out there humping it. They're doing what they need to do. And I applaud that. The problem is 2-3 years down the road, if this thing goes to trial, they're not going to remember what they were doing specifically. And that's why it's so important to keep a list. The other thing is, we have a saying in our office: if it's not in writing, it never happened. So oftentimes, one of the big jobs of our client, who's the victim, is to actually contact rental companies, Ryder, Penske, maybe whoever they're leased to, those type of things, and ask for, do you have a rental? And so many of our clients, they have special equipment Ryder or Penske isn't going to have. During COVID, they didn't have any equipment at all. And so rather than just calling Ryder and Penske and asking and getting denied, it's very important to email and get a denial in writing. Because again, 3 years down the road, when this is in front of a judge and the judge says, what did you do? And then we have these papers that say, Judge, they tried this place, they tried that place. It was impossible to mitigate their losses. It was impossible to go rent something to make their losses any smaller than it was.
I want to go back to something you mentioned a moment ago, and that is proving liability. And I would think a key part of that would be getting a hold of a police report. Do they generally, and again, it's been a long time since I've seen one, but generally speaking, don't they indicate the primary cause of the accident? Could that be something that would prove the liability of the other driver?
It's very helpful. A police report is very helpful. Of course, if again, with the State Farm driver, let's say the police report says the State Farm driver moved into the other lane, even got a ticket. State Farm could potentially still deny that claim, paying that claim, because State Farm and that auto driver have an insurance policy together. They have a contract, and that driver says that they will cooperate if there's ever a claim. If State Farm is contacting that driver and that driver's not responding, State Farm has an argument that they don't have to pay that claim because, so certainly the truck driver can file suit against that auto driver and probably get a judgment. But does that auto driver have any assets to go after as well? So that's always the thing, is to encourage the car driver to get with their insurance company to get this resolved so that they don't get themselves in a lawsuit.
One of the things I always think about when I talk to someone about this is just calculating your loss from downtime. Because in trekking, you may get one rate on one load and one rate on another. What is the process you have to do to calculate your actual losses from downtime?
Well, every guy out there is different, and every gal out there is different. Every company makes something different. We'll have one client that makes 500 a day, another that makes 1,000 a day, some that make a little more if they're even team drivers or hauling really special loads. And so a lot of times insurance companies, the adverse insurance companies, will say, we only pay rental rate, or we pay industry average of 150 a day. Well, that's garbage. That's absolutely garbage. And the losses from each of our clients is calculated in a custom way. And that's what I encourage all of your listeners to do as well. So everyone knows they have a history of what they've been making, and they know basically what they would have been making during that lost time. Very few of our clients have dedicated runs where they know exactly where they're going to be. They know where they would have been the entire downtime period. Most of our clients pull off of a load board. And so they might be in California one day, and New Jersey the next. Well, not that fast, but anyway, hopefully not. Anyway, so it's typically looking back at a history of what they were making on a daily basis and basically multiplying it by the number of days that they were down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else that you think is important for people to know, or that you just want to add?
So dash cams save the day all the time. So keep that dash cam on, make sure it's working. We have won so many cases that we would have lost otherwise because of the proof of liability that it was not the truck driver's fault. And if you don't have your dash cam on, if you're in a parking lot or whatever, check with other drivers to see if they had their dash cam on, because that can make or break a case.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.